No. Oh, yay. Cool. Awesome. So I'm Maddie. This is Brandy, for those who don't know us. I feel like a lot of you do, but it's cool. So today we just kind of want to share with you guys our testimony and just some things that the Lord has really shown us in our lives. So today we have decided to call the Facts of Life. And these aren't really facts that can be written out, but these are just truths that through the different events in our lives that we have just learned from God, and the different trials and the different joyous occasions that we've gone through. So, do you want to say anything? Okay, so we broke up. Our life up until this point into 3 different categories. If anyone was with Mr. Peaceburg on Thursday, you know what we're going to do, because he did kind of the same thing. So we broke it up into 3 different points. I'm saying I don't know why, I apologize. So each one we have a different thing that we've learned and a Bible verse that we feel goes with it. So I'm going to start off. And our first point is do this way. It's not working. Dang. Okay, so our first point is, even when life is rough, God still has it. So I'm just going to talk about from a little bit before we were born up until 4th, 5th grade. So our parents were married in August of 1988, and they didn't have the most functional relationship. They fought quite a bit, so that wasn't good. They had our brother, who is 7.5 years older than us. That was in 1990. So our brother grew up, he didn't really have the best life because our parents fought a lot, and they seemed to always want to take the joy out of his childhood, at least to us. That's what it seemed like from what we've been told. And so that didn't start the marriage off well, obviously. There was already a lot of dysfunction. And so they decided that they were going to get divorced in November of 1996. And that was actually at our aunt's wedding. So her sister's wedding, she made the giant announcement that she was going to get a divorce from her husband. So way to kill the mood. So this was because our biological dad had cheated on our mother with another lady. He would tell her that he was going to Knapp to read the magazines, and he would just be there all night reading magazines. He would sit down and just flip through them all when he was having an affair. So they announced that, and for some reason, I don't know why, they decided that they were going to have a fix-it baby. So this baby was going to fix all their problems. The poor, helpless, innocent baby who can't feed itself, can't change its own diaper, can't do any of that, was supposed to solve relationship issues of a marriage. Don't ever do that, because that doesn't work. That obviously is going to cause more stress. So this fix-it baby they decided to have ended up being 2 babies. So thus the Twinkies were born in 1997. So obviously, if one baby can't fix it, 2 can't either. So before our first birthday, they got divorced, and so that was in 1998, obviously, because that's the next year. So this time, our dad left our mom and went and married this other chick that he was having an affair with. Her name was Sandy. She was pregnant at the time with a child, and so they got married and they went off and did that, and so we were with her mom. A couple years later, our mom met a guy named Ray Wright. We were not related to Clayton, just to clarify. Our grandma and grandpa nicknamed him Jailbird because he would be in and out of jail so much. So that obviously wasn't a good influence on her. And he was a drug addict, he was an alcoholic, he was abusive towards her. He would hit her. One time when we were in a hotel with them up in Sandusky, they got in an argument because she didn't buy him cigarettes, and he threw a glass perfume bottle at her face, and completely screwed up her face, and we had to see that. So that wasn't a fun experience either. There would be times when we were like really young that our grandma, who we will refer to as Mimi, or she had to come up to Cleveland and actually like save us because we were in this apartment that had dirty clothes piled to the ceiling, beer bottles all over, and we were in a kiddie pen with bottles that had sour milk and orange juice in them, and that we were supposed to drink and live off of. So obviously it wasn't the best for us. We lived to tell the tale, so that's why we're here today. So during this time, before we even started first grade, we moved from house to house with our mother. She wouldn't pay the rent, she wouldn't pay for electricity, she wouldn't really do any of that for an extended period of time. So from the time that we were born to the time that we were in the first grade, we lived in 8 different houses, apartments. At one point we even lived in the car in a park in Lorraine. So that wasn't good as well. We also attended 2 different kindergartens in that time because we moved so much. And there's actually a point where we actually walked ourselves as kindergarten and like kindergartners, thank you. We would walk ourselves to school because our mom wouldn't get up or she wouldn't take us. So kindergartners in the middle of Lorraine, walking ourselves to school, it's fine. So there was even a summer that we lived with our dad and at the time our stepmom, if you want to call her a mom. She favored her children. She like loved them to pieces, and she did not like us at all. She would like chase us with a broom. She would have her kids invite us, like even if we didn't do anything wrong. And there was even a like point where she would like scream at us and yell at us that I was like afraid to go to the bathroom. Like that's how bad it was. And I ended up in the emergency room in Cleveland today, so sick because I wouldn't go to the bathroom for like weeks because I was so scared about what she would do. So thankfully we had our Mimi and Poppy that the Lord so graciously placed in our lives. And by 2001 they had moved into the house that we currently live in Elyria, and they actually like came and we permanently went to live with them in 2001. So that was a couple weeks before we started first grade at Windsor Elementary. Anyone go to Windsor? Anyone at all? Yes. Best school experience ever, honestly. We made a lot of good friends. It was the first time that I actually had friends that would actually support me and stay by me, and that I actually can have a relationship with, because we didn't move anymore. And so it was at that time when we permanently came to live with them that they really began to show us, like, because they were obviously Christians at the time, they were raised that way, so they began to show us and like teach us about God and teach us about Jesus, and then He came and like saved us from our sins. And I remember every Saturday we would sit and we would listen to Adventures in Odyssey. Any fans? That's right. Yeah. Our favorite was Cheetah Girls. I don't know about you, but it was cool. Or it was Cheetah Bonita, something like that. I don't remember. Cheetah Sisters. Thank you. Cool. Jungle Jane. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I digress. Squirrel moment. I apologize. And so they began to take us to church. We started attending Cross Community Church on Abbey Roads, across from Dairy Queen. We call it the Circle K Church because we're always all at Circle K, which is on the other side of the street. And so this was really the time that we began to like realize the truth about God. And it was, honestly, I believe it was because of the like love and the sacrifice and the grace that our grandparents showed us that like we're Christians today. Because we never would have known that if we had stayed with our mom. I can honestly say that if they hadn't done anything, that I wouldn't be here today, because I would have faced too much and probably would have ended my life, because it was already so much at the very beginning that it would have just gotten worse. So I can honestly say that, so thank you. There you go, Emily, that was in my top 10 speech, so you're welcome. Anyways, so like I said, going back to my first point, so it's even when life is rough, God still has it all. So obviously God was willing it all, because the beginning started off super rough, super bad, not kid-friendly at all, but like God still had a plan. And He still gave us Harmony and Poppy that took care of us. So even when it seems hard, like God is still in control. And so the Bible verse that we have to go with that is Psalms 46, 1. It says, God is our refuge and our strength, our present help in trouble. And there were a lot of times in our childhood that we felt like we were in trouble. And like God really carried us through and really showed up. So that really brings us up to like 4th grade. So my twinkies going to take it from there. Yeah, so our childhood, like up until 1st grade-ish, wasn't really like the best G-rated childhood, you know. But in the 4th grade, which was really, really awesome, was our grandparents adopted us. So they became our parents. And it's kind of weird how it worked out because our biological mom, she came to our grandparents and said, you have to adopt my girls because I can't take care of them. And we're like, oh, that's funny, that's a joke, you can do it. So then she asked again, and she followed up by saying that she had married this man who was a sex offender. So, yeah, registered sex offender, which meant that we could no longer like live with him, obviously. So then my grandparents said, okay, we'll totally do this, we'll give him a second chance. And I had forgotten about this, but Maddie reminded me the other day that on our birthday in 2007, because we were adopted in 2008, our grandparents gave us each rings, which had little blue hearts and a little diamond next to it, and they said that we were getting adopted, which was like the best birthday present ever, because we now have awesome parents. So fast forward to May, it was the day after our grandma's birthday, so it was May 20th. 2008 that we were adopted, and there were actually 30 plus people in the courtroom when it happened because all these people wanted to come out and like show their support and just share in the joy that we were going to have a new life and be given a fresh start. And I remember going to Olive Garden afterwards, and Chloe Blazer was there for all you people who know her because we were like best friends then. So the only thing that really changed after we adopted was our last name and how complicated it became to share our family story. Because legally, like, our grandparents became our parents, which meant our mom became our sister, and our aunt became our sister, and our brother was somewhere in there, so it got really confusing to like tell our story. And a lot of times we flip back between mom and grandma, and Mimi and Bobby and all this other stuff. So that's really all that changed. Because we still lived with our grandparents, which that's another thing that really affected us was living with them because it's really different because they've already been through it all, so they know all the tricks in the book. You can't get away with anything when they know everything, like literally. So another thing that also affected us was that our grandpa was disabled. He was in Vietnam, he's a Vietnam veteran. And he got sprayed with Agent Orange, and it like messed up his legs, so he couldn't really walk anymore. And that began in 1999. So I'm not so close, so that's why I'm like confirming details. Anyway, so we never really knew our Poppy without like with him being able to walk. Because when he was younger, he would play volleyball with my aunt and do all this kind of stuff, and we never knew that kind of side of him. So it was really good though, even though it was kind of bad. God was still in it, which is kind of like our second point, which is God has a continuous plan. And He does have a plan for everything, even in the bad situations when you don't see it. Because if it wasn't for those moments and like learning how to care for someone and have a tender heart, I would definitely not be the person I am today. I mean, even something as simple as holding the door open for someone, like, that's huge for people who can't walk. And so we definitely like learned about that. And there were times where I think we both kind of were mad about it, I would say, because like going to a father-daughter dance with your uncle isn't as special as when you go with your dad because your dad can't walk. Or not having him at your volleyball and soccer games and that kind of thing. But he was always there in spirit, and he always cared for us. Like when we would get home from those events or church plays, or we would have solos, he'd always ask like how it was, how it went, and he always told us he was proud of us, like no matter what. So that was really cool. And during that time between like 4th grade and then like in middle school, that's when we came here to Open Door and met our senior class. And yeah, that's right. 1 week, yeah. But anyway, so it was really great to come here to Open Door because our grandparents definitely sacrificed a lot for us. They sacrificed their retirement and cars that we could have had and needed, and just like helping other people. They definitely, because that's like my grandma's passion is like helping others, and they definitely like sacrificed that kind of stuff for us, which was really cool that they did that. So then we came here to Open Door, we started getting involved in our church and in our leadership program and just like learning who God was and learning how to teach other people about the Lord and who He is. And the scripture verse that kind of goes with this point is Romans 8:28, which is, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. And I definitely think in our life God has had a purpose with everything. Even like with my grandma's disability, and as a result of that, us getting involved in the church and doing that kind of stuff. Because if we wouldn't have had that foundation, I think this senior year, our whole life would have fallen apart. For those of you who like know and don't know, which we're going to share a little bit more about our senior year in a minute. But God has definitely like worked everything out for His good and His glory. And I think one of the things that's really worked with that is that we've been willing, like our whole family has been willing to accept what God wants and been really open to where He's pointing us and leading us to. So this is just going to start off with the senior year. So it's our senior year, as a lot of you know, probably. Our senior year didn't really, because, okay, so she showed up to junior year. I didn't know if you caught that. Anyways. So our senior year didn't really happen the way that one would expect. So a lot of people expect junior year to be like this crazy fun, like you're hanging out. Did I say junior? I meant senior. I apologize. Senior year is supposed to be this crazy, like fun year where you hang out with friends all the time. You get to do crazy things. It's like the end classes are easy. Like, you're almost done, it doesn't matter anymore. Was senior year like that for anyone this year, guys? No. Okay, so obviously it wasn't at all what anyone expected. For us, it was a little different, because yes, classes were hard, yes, we were busy with school and work and church, but we actually started our senior year off the night before. We spent it in the emergency room with our Poppy, who is our grandpa. So we'll refer to him as Poppy. I don't know if he's brother. Anyways, so I had been in Florida like the week before we started school. And during that time, our Poppy had taken a fall. And so I heard about that in Florida, and I was like, oh, okay, like my aunt and uncle, I was with them. They didn't really tell me like a whole bunch. They just said he'd fallen and he wasn't like walking too well, and I was like, oh, well, this is usual. He's fallen before, and it'll take a few days. He'll be okay. He's like gotten over this before. Well, when I got home, it went from being able to see him occasionally get up out of, because he would sit in a chair every day. For almost 15 years, he sat in a chair and watched TV because he couldn't walk. He could get up and go to the bathroom, or he could like get out and go to the doctor's office, but he couldn't really do anything else. And as the years went on, it progressively got worse. So this last fall, for some reason, he had just not been able to recover quickly. And by the time I got home, he wasn't sitting in our living room anymore. He was laying in his bed, which was a hospital bed that we'd gotten. And it was about from the bathroom door because he couldn't get up and walk like any further than that to use the bathroom. So this was a dramatic difference from when I had left to when I had returned. And during the time that he was in the bed, he began to develop like a sore. Like, I don't know if anyone knows, but when someone lays in a bed for a long time, like they have a possibility of getting like bed sores from places where there's like pressure. So he had developed a bed sore on his foot, and in a matter of, what was it, like 3 days, the bed sore went from being like this big to like being bigger than the size of a quarter. So that obviously wasn't good, and so a nurse came and looked at it and said that he needed to be like taken to the emergency room like as soon as possible because from the Agent Orange that he had been sprayed with in Vietnam, he had begun to lose the circulation in his legs. His leg was like, both his legs were full of blood clots, and so that's what made it hard for him to walk. He had neuropathy, so he couldn't feel anything, and like below his waist, so he couldn't feel how bad like that would hurt. And for the normal person, like they would probably be screaming in pain. Because he had no feeling, he didn't know that it was that bad. So they rushed him to the emergency room, and he had to go to another hospital. And this was already hard for him because he couldn't walk, and so he was taken like on a gurney by an ambulance. So this was already a lot for him. And so then he was taken to another hospital, and at that point he just wanted to be done. Like, we had a nurse come and visit us a day before the nurse that came and told him to take him to the ER. She came and said, okay, so what's your goal, Bill? What do you want to do? And he's like, I want to be 6 feet under. So that's how bad he had gotten. We never knew that until recently, that that's how bad he wanted to be done with his life because it was so hard. So from the emergency room, we went to another hospital and he was there for about a week or two, and they took care of the healing. As it started to like show signs of healing, we had to put him into a nursing home because physically we could not take care of him. He was like a bigger guy, and he couldn't walk. He couldn't really go to the bathroom without help. And so us 3 girls, like if you see my Mimi up here, she's 4'11", so she's tiny. Like, yeah, that's right, Sarah Smith. Shout out to you. Anyways, so she was dancing, if you didn't see that. Anyways, so we obviously couldn't take care of him, so we went to a nursing home. And so instead of spending our like senior years how we expected, which was like hanging out with friends, doing fun things, going to crazy places, we spent almost every day either at work, at the nursing home, or at church. So, and on days where we had church, we would go to the nursing home before and then go straight we'd go from the nursing home straight after school to the church. Or when we worked, we would try as hard as we could to leave early. 8th grade study hall I have one. So I would leave early occasionally and go and then go straight to work afterwards. So we were rushing around the clock all the time, but we always made it a priority to be up there to see him. And sometimes, there were a few times that we didn't, there were a few times that we couldn't go, but almost every time, every day we went to see him. And Saturday nights, instead of hanging out with friends, we spent playing cards up in a nursing home cafeteria with him. And some days, like some weeks, that would be the only time he would get out of bed, except for the hour of physical therapy that he had every day. So he'd be in the bed 23 hours, and then 1 hour a day he'd have physical therapy. And then Saturday nights he'd spend 2 or 3 hours in the cafeteria playing cards with us, because that's what he loved to do. I remember when we were kids, we would sit and we'd play cards, and we'd use like chocolate coins as like money to like bet. I'm not advertising that, but notice I refer to it as cards, not anything else. Anyways, so as the months went on from that first night in August where the night before the start of school, up until about October. I had to count through the months in my head. There would be like awesome days where he would be able to like walk from his room at the end of the hall almost all the way to the nurse's station. And that was so exciting because that's like the farthest he's ever walked in 15 years. And so we were all like super excited, and his one goal was to make it to graduation. And he wanted to be able to sit up here and like see us graduate. And so Bethany, like most of you already know, like that obviously didn't happen. So my Twinkie is going to go on. Do you want to explain it? Do you want me to? Okay, so my Twinkie is going to kind of, oh yeah, okay, so I have to add, because our third point, you want to put that up there, is seeking God's will in your life isn't always easy, but it's definitely worth it. So during all this time that we spent in the nursing home or at the hospital or wherever we were, I had decided that as my future plans that I was going to go to LC and do their partnership program and become an RN in order to take care of my papi, in order to stay here, live in the house that we live at, and be able to be his nurse because he needed a nurse 24/7, and our Mimi couldn't do that. And so I had decided, I didn't really pray about it, I had made the decision up in my mind, and if most of you know me, when I make a decision, it's like, okay, this is what we're doing. I told everyone that's what I was doing, and so that's what I had decided. Well, the Lord had other plans, so that's what I'm going to say, but my Twinkie is going to talk now.
So my college plans were definitely different than hers because I was planning on going away, and which sounds like really heartless, I realized when I was like writing this out. But I had decided, and it wasn't just like me deciding, our Mimi and Papi had also said that I could go, and I was going to attend Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida. And I had decided that because I didn't want them to be the reason and feel like they wouldn't be the reason that I stayed. And like look back in 40 years and I stayed here and say, you know what, Mimi, you're the reason I stayed and I regret it so much. Not that I would, but so I was always like planning to leave. And that didn't really change until the very end. And I had decided that I was possibly going to like stay here and do all that kind of stuff. And once again, God had other plans. And so in November, the week of Thanksgiving, right? So there were like 2 days where we technically had school, and then like the other 3 we were off. And I remember sitting in study hall, and we were watching my nephew at the time. And so, no, I was sitting in study hall, you were sick. And we had been watching our nephew at the time, so my Mimi and her had my nephew. And I got a text message, and it said something like, you need to come home right now, something happened, we're taking baby Wiley to daycare. And I completely read the message wrong and thought it said, we're picking up baby Wiley from daycare, something happened. So I'm like, okay, he must be like sick or something. So I went to the office, my Mimi had already called, this is Stanford, I just signed out and left at home. And I got into the driveway and no one was home. And I'm like, why the heck did you get me out of school when no one's home? So I called my Mimi and she said, Brandy, take the dogs outside and get ready to go because we have to go to the emergency room. Your dad's not doing something. And I can do this without crying. So she said, it doesn't look good at all. So I remember going to the patio and like letting my dogs out, and I said, like I verbally said, I said, God, if you take my dad, I will never forgive you. Which is what
I said the same thing countless nights in the shower since I cried. So
you're not really, yeah. So I remember like saying that, and like after he passed away and stuff, like I held on to that, but it wasn't like I had to come to the point where I was like, okay, God, like you have a plan for this, you know?
And even like the way we got involved in the church beforehand, like having all those people around us was really good. So it's not like there are times where I'm bitter, but it's not like I'm angry at God, because I know that He knew what God planned and everything. That verse that led like with this point was Isaiah 41:10, which says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand," which is totally what God has done, like in the side and like even through our whole life. And I don't know if Maddie wants to say. So you know, like during this time where, because when we went to the emergency room, obviously it wasn't good. Our grandpa was put into the ICU, which is only for like people who are like in critical condition, who are going to like die. So, who's like there's a very small chance of them like actually living. So, like it was really at that time where like the two other points that we like stated, those really began to like hold us, because you know, like the beginning of that journey, like the beginning of senior year where this all began, like it was rough. Like it started off rough, and we had to remember that like God was in control, and that God was holding it all, the entire situation, no matter what the outcome was. And it even like as the days got worse, or as the days got better and then got worse again, like we had to remember that God had a continuous plan, that no matter what happened, it was all part of God's will. And there would be times where, especially during that week, because he spent like that Monday to that Thursday where he passed away in the ICU, there were times where we had to like pray, and we would have to say like, God, not our will, but your will. Like it wasn't easy, because we knew, well, at least I knew what the outcome would be, just because I knew what our papi wanted. I knew what he could handle. I knew, because I had lived with him, I had seen him, I had taken care of him anytime he would get hurt, anytime I would, all three of us, we would bring him a cup of water, because he couldn't get up and get a cup of water. We would take him his food every night, and we knew that in the end, what he would want. And so, even though we would pray like, God, let's have a miraculous healing here, like, we still had to pray like, God, what is your will? And that wasn't an easy thing at all. Like, that was one of the hardest things that you have to pray. But it was definitely the right thing, because as terrible as it sounds, like our grandpa wasn't a burden, but we definitely had to do a lot more than most people had to do when it came to taking care of him. And after he passed away, like, we were able to, instead of spending our every night at home, like, cleaning up after him, or like bringing him food, or making sure we had someone at the house in case he fell, like, we could actually spend time in our church. We could actually spend more time, like, doing the work of God. And that's exactly what he would have wanted. And so it was definitely worth it. Like, even all the pain and the hurt that we like face every day, it's definitely worth the trials that God has put in front of us. So that's kind of our testimony. We never shared that with like really anyone. Mr. Newberg heard a little bit of it, but no one else really has. So we just wanted to like share with you guys just these truths and these foundations that we've really built our life around, and that the Lord has really showed us. So I hope this time wasn't wasted for you guys. I apologize. We went over, so if there's something that you got out of this, you missed some of the experience. So, I don't know, Mr. Duffy, do you have anything? No announcements? Okay, well, I'm going to pray real quick, and then we're going to go to fourth period. So we're going to go to fourth period. So if you guys can close your eyes, bow your heads. Dear God, I just thank you for this opportunity just that we have to be here as the upper school, and as just a body of you, that we are able to just meet here and be together. And Lord, I just pray that as we get ready to end this school year, and as we get ready to go out and enjoy our break, our summer break, I just pray that you would go with us, that you would just be with each and every one of us, and that we wouldn't waste our time, that we would live each moment as a moment to be an example of who you are. And I just thank you for the opportunity that my twin and I had to just share the story that you have written for us. And I pray that each and every student, whether they have a story like ours or a story that's like super easy and they didn't really face that much, I just pray that you would use that to bring you glory, God, because you've given us each a story, and you've given us each a different walk in life, and I just pray that we would use it to bring glory to you. And it's in your name we pray.